Doing my usual thing here, putting clips together a long time before they end up on YouTube. This is the last day of July and the lavender is now in full bloom. You can see all those bees in there and all. Just humming with life. And in the center is my one Canada lily, Lilium canadensis, which has been in bloom for a few days now, and the blossom's almost finished. Just thought I'd start with a few clips of some things that probably won't be in bloom by the time I get this video up on YouTube. I've got to pick this crookneck squash today, I guess, before it gets any larger. I've had one so far, one that was in the hoopos, and I let it get a little bit too big. It was still very tasty, but a lot like zucchini, when these things start producing, there's one just about every day. Next to it, over the other side of this patch here anyway, is Pattypan squash. And I'm having the same problem out here as I'm having inside of the hoopos with these things. I've never grown them before. There have been probably between the 3 plants, one in the hoopos and 2 out here, there have been dozens of blossoms, all male. I do see way down below here in this one where there's some female blossoms coming. So far there hasn't been anything, just male flowers. Because I've never grown them before, so maybe that's normal. Well, I've been waiting until the 1st of August, and that's what today is, the 1st of August, to see if I can dump out some potatoes here and see if there's anything growing below ground. This is not the variety that I thought I would start with. I have 12 varieties growing, not very many of each. 2 of the varieties were listed as being early potatoes, one called Pacific Russet and the other one Norland, which is a red-skinned potato. However, these are Yukon Gold, and as you can see, the plant has died, so whatever's down there is all ever going to be there, I guess. And this had quite a few seed potatoes in it, 4. I only had 16 grow bags. Grow the potatoes in. Didn't want to waste any of the seeds, so this ended up getting 4 in it. And unfortunately, the soil is wet. Why I did it, I don't know. Last night I watered them. Watered a dead plant. Make much sense, I guess. These are 7-liter smart pots. So 7 gallons, 7 gallon smart pot. I see a few potatoes. That's promising. I like Yukon Gold. It's a nice yellow-fleshed potato. Well, considering that there were 4 seed potatoes, that's not much of a harvest. There's one of the seed potatoes there, I guess. Well, I'll get a couple of meals out of it. Hopefully some of the other varieties have done a bit better than Yukon Gold did. I don't have scales, so they won't be weighed, but there's not much there to weigh. £1.5 or so would be a guess, I guess, but there's not a lot of potatoes anyway. Well, I have to show off my Halvor F1 variety Petunia. Halvor in Norway, right? Yeah, Norway, sent me some petunia seeds, and I didn't plant them correctly, I guess. I covered them over a little bit with some the potting mix, and I only managed to get one to germinate. But it has started to bloom. All of a sudden, just in the last 2 or 3 days, it's burst into flower. And I think they are a kind that sort of will come out over the edge of this planter that they're in and hang down. Anyway, I'm certain that it won't cross-pollinate with anything here because it's the only petunia on the property. So I hope to save seeds and have a lot more of these next year. They're beautiful, Halvor. Well, this is the Belgian endive or Witloof chicory plant that overwintered, and I wanted to see it bloom, go to seed, so I've left it to grow. It is not a very attractive plant. It's probably 4 feet tall, 5 feet tall, and sprawling out in all directions and kind of falling over, but doesn't it have a beautiful blossom? And each blossom only lasts for 1 day, like a daylily or hibiscus, and well, squash blossoms I guess only last for 1 day, but there are hundreds of buds yet to come, so I'm going to leave it. I don't know if I'll collect any seeds from it or not, but it's an interesting flower in the garden. There were also a couple of parsnips, maybe 3 I guess, that overwintered, and I let them go to seed, and I do plan to save the seed from those and see how they make out next year. This one here is already bloomed, and as you can see behind each blossom there's a seed or a seed capsule. I'm not quite sure if that's 1 or more, and there's others that are just starting to bloom out down in there. I'm glad to see that it's yellow. We have also growing, I haven't seen it growing here in the area, but we have wild parsnip, which has a white flower, same design as this but white. And it is a lethal, very dangerous plant, and it's spreading. If you break a stem off, it produces a white sap, a latex, whatever, and that produces a severe dermatitis, skin blisters even, and if you get it in your eyes, you can go blind. They're trying to eradicate it, but as you can see, it produces lots of seeds, and it seems to be spreading. So I'm glad to see there's a difference in the color. I can be certain what I'm harvesting. These are the Ethiopian lentils. The flower is a lot like a pea blossom. Sort of blue and some pink and sort of a dusty rose color on the outside of the petal. They're very pretty. And they produce a pod. I'll pick one off because there isn't one right close by there. Similar to a pea pod. And I think in that inside of that one, I think I can see 3 at least, and maybe 2 more. There's probably about 5 lentil seeds going to develop inside of a pod that size. The instructions that came on the packet said to plant them close together for self-support. There's no sense in trellising them or anything. They don't grow that tall, but I guess I didn't get them planted close enough together. They sort of have collapsed on top of each other, but that's no problem. It's just a plant that you just leave it anyway until the seeds are well developed and dried, and then I'll just pull them up and hopefully get to taste some Ethiopian lentils. Well, as you can see, the garlic is starting to get fairly brown. I really don't think it's going to develop anything larger underground at this point, so I'm going to harvest it. I've had maybe 3 heads, I guess, always pulling what I thought was the largest looking stalk, so I'll show you what I get when I pull them all, various sizes, but this is about the size that I've been bringing out so far. This one was pulled a couple of days ago and laid out here, the size of my hand in there. The variety is called Northern Quebec, and they don't bill it as being an elephant garlic, but that's the way I think of it. It's very large cloves and fairly mild. That's what I like in a garlic. And that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 5, possibly 6 cloves in that size head, so they're fairly large. Anyway, I'll give you a look at them once they're pulled and cleaned off a bit here. Well, such as it is, there it is, I guess. I just pulled them out and rinsed them off in a bit of water, and I'll leave them here in hopefully what will be sunshine for the next couple of days. Then I'll cut the tops off and trim up the roots, and they will go up in the loft in the cabin, which I discovered last year is a wonderful place to cure your garlic and onions. I can leave them up there until the weather gets really cold in the fall before I have to move them into the house. But the size goes all the way from that one, and I don't think you can see the smallest ones, they're not in this shot. Down at the end here is one of the smaller ones. So amazing that it's the same variety of garlic grown in the same bed, and there's that much of a contrast. But anyway, I will even use the small ones, they're fine, it isn't a problem. While I was pulling out the garlic, I decided I might as well pull out my shallots. The necks on them are getting soft and the tops are starting to fall over, so they're not going to get any larger than they are. I'll give you an idea of the contrast in size here, I guess. It's probably one of the larger ones, and this is probably one of the smaller ones, so there's a variety in the size there too. But I'll do the same thing with these. They'll stay out in the sun for a few days, and then I will clean them up a little more and they'll go up in the loft. I'm getting both of these beds, the bed where the shallots were and this bed where the garlic was, ready for some succession planting. I have some seedlings started of Salanova lettuce and rapini and chard, which I'm not having any luck with at all this year. The first chard is behind me in this raised bed and never really developed into anything, but hoping for better success with the next cropping of them, I guess. This is now August the 8th, and I'm about to take the final few clips for this video, which will come out, well, probably a week from now, I guess, mid-August. I hope to get these things transplanted into the garden today. This is the Salanova lettuce. I planted 12 seeds, and they all germinated. And came up quite nicely. This one here, something happened, a slug or something ate it, but the other 12, you may not be able to see these red ones, they sort of blend in with the soil, but the 11 of the 12 are growing nicely, and I hope to get them in the ground today. These are turnips, the purple turnip, the small turnip. When I think turnip here, I think rutabaga, and it's not rutabaga, but I have been enjoying them, and I want to get a succession crop in. Beets, I hope to harvest the beets that are left in the hoop house and get these planted in there. And this is rapini, or broccoli de robe, the same plant, I believe, just two different names. I enjoyed what I grew earlier, but I let it get away from me, and it went to flower and became tough. I've hauled it out and going to put this in. And this is the chard. I'm always tempted to say rainbow chard, but that's not what this variety was. Kaleidoscope, this was called. I've planted some earlier and had miserable luck with it, really. It didn't grow hardly at all, so I've got some more started here and transplant them out. Hopefully they'll grow better for me in late summer and early fall. For anyone who hasn't seen Achocha or most melons, I thought I would pick a couple and show you. New to me this year, first time I've ever grown them as well. I had never seen the Achocha before until David on the Work with Nature program showed them last year and sent me some seeds. Most melons I have watched, I guess, on several channels from Australia. Rob in particular, I think, has grown them and shown them a number of times, and Andy, maybe somebody else anyway, has grown them and pickled them, which is what I would like to try. But they are both considered to be a cucumber substitute for places that have difficulty growing cucumbers. Most melon, as you can see, has a lot of seeds in it, but I do find that it tastes very much like a cucumber. The Achocha to me is a more of an acquired taste than the most melon is. As you can see, this one has already started to develop those strange seeds, so I guess you would have to split them and remove the seeds. Surprised actually to see seeds in one this small. Some of the things that I have watched on YouTube and whatever shows stuffing them like you would stuff a pepper. With me it would be a rice and cheese and stuffing, but also you could do them with meat, I guess. And I don't really get too much of a taste like cucumber. It's nice diced up in a salad, nice and crisp, and has a different sort of a flavor, but to me it doesn't taste like cucumber anyway. But anyway, that's a look at Achocha and most melon. I gave a number of seeds of both of them away to various people. If you're watching this video, I'd just be curious to see how yours did this year. And as I said to David when he sent me these seeds, if I had seen a pile of those laying around somewhere, I never would have guessed that that was a seed. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but it doesn't look like any seed I've ever seen before. Hopefully the lens isn't all misted up. I'm in the hoop house here where it's always very humid, and sometimes I can't tell until I get this back on the computer and have a look at it as to whether or not it's fogged up or not. But I just finished picking a few of the Alpine strawberries. Actually, that's all that's available today. I've just been eating them here in the hoop house so far. There hasn't been that many, but they're now starting to be more every day, and there are a lot of green ones that are all about the same size. So I would say in a week to 10 days there'll be, well, no great harvest, but a few cups of them available all at once, and they are delicious. I really love the things, and I'm so glad that Elise told me that they don't produce runners, and that is holding true. There's no runners, so they are not becoming a nuisance in here. What else I wanted to show you here is one of my Armenian cucumbers. The vines have been growing quite well, and I don't know, to me there doesn't seem to be that much fruit because it's mostly male blossoms. I'm having that trouble with one of the squash varieties too, but that's the nicest of the ones that are on. The others are all sort of curled for some reason, but this one, I guess where it was hanging down off the plant here, grew nice and straight. I'll let it grow a while yet. I think they can get bigger than that and still be good to eat. So I haven't yet tried my first Armenian cucumber. I wanted to show you my one, so far only one, Hokkaido or pumpkin or squash, whichever you want to call it. It's the same one that I showed in last week's video. That video was taken though early in July, and we're now the 8th of August, as I said. But it's gone from being yellow to turning a nice orange size, and if you get my hand in there, you can see it has certainly grown quite a bit. I suppose it's still growing, but I'm anxious to get the chance to try one of those. I wanted to show this for Rob, the old gardener guy in Finland. We've been talking about how easy it is to propagate black currants, and I wanted to show these. This was just 6 stems that I pruned off because of winter damage this past spring, and all I did was stick the stems in the soil in here in the hoop house, and I've occasionally watered it. All 6 rooted. They're very close together. It looks like one plant, but it's actually 6 different stems. And like this tallest one here, that's grown, I would say, a good 2 feet since it took root. So these things are extremely easy to propagate. Now I have to find somebody that would like to have these so I can get them out of here, because I've got all that I need out in the garden. I picked those black currants and made, well, 2.5 batches of black currant jam. The other half batch was mixed with other kinds of fruit out of the garden, but altogether I got 12 500 milliliter bottles, and that's more than what I need. Well, in getting ready to transplant the new beet seedlings, I've got to harvest what's left of my beet crop. I've had several meals out of them already, but these are as big as I'm going to let them get anyway. I guess what they look like. should have been thinned out, but didn't get thinned out. But there's some that size. And I think that's probably about average size, and then some that are smaller. So I'll show you what I get once they're all picked. And before I leave the heat in the hoop house here, I'll show you that I have one cachofe, one artichoke. I divided my artichoke plant into 3 this spring, and so far it has put up 1 that's starting to open up. I've got to pick that today. And there is another smaller one coming behind it, which hopefully will develop. The other 2 plants, either side of this one, so far haven't sent up anything. Maybe they won't this year. Well, I'm satisfied with that harvest. My 1 artichoke. Not a lot of beets, but I will enjoy them. I love them. I picked 4 of the small purple turnips. Had them once before, and they're very good. And of course you saw the small dish of Alpine strawberries. And 1 of the Salanova lettuce was ready to go to the house. So now I guess I better get some of these seedlings transplanted. I'm getting the beds ready to transplant those seedlings in, and I walked past this and remembered that I wanted to show you. These are the Meuch, M-U-C-H or something like that. Anyway, I'll put the list down below. Beans that were sent to me by David on the Work with Nature channel when he lived in Switzerland. He now lives in India. But I have Googled, I have searched, I can find absolutely nothing on the internet. So what the variety is, I really don't know. I presume the name that he used is what they were called locally. But they are very impressive plants. I've never seen beans grow such large leaves. They're just starting to bloom. You can't see any of the blossoms. I don't think I can see 1 or 2. They're sort of a little pinkish, purplish flower, but they haven't produced any beans yet. But I'll get in there with a hand to show you the size of some of these leaves. Very impressed with the size, so hopefully the beans will measure up. Well, thank you for watching. The beds have been prepared, but I won't do the actual transplanting until the evening hours here when it's a bit cooler and the sun has gone down behind the trees. These plants have been out in the sunlight on a bench now for, well, I guess ever since I planted them, really. That's where I planted them at. But nevertheless, the shock of transplanting another one, do that in the bright sunlight. So I'll wait until this evening. This bed here is going to have the Salanova lettuce, the turnips, and the Swiss chard in. And the bed over where I had the shallots will have the rapini, and the beets will be going in the hoop house where I just harvested the other crop of beets. So thank you very much for watching.